Hey guys, today we're in the book of 2 Kings chapter 24. Now, with Pharaoh Necho picking the next king, okay? So he picks the next king. That goes well until chapter 24. In his days, Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, came up. And Jehoiakim became his servant for 3 years. So Necho picked this king, Jehoiakim, and he was Pharaoh's kind of just puppet on a string until Babylon fully took over. Now you've got to understand, okay, we'll kind of use this, our reading chart, as a map, okay? If this is Israel, which kind of looks more like this, if this is Israel, okay, up here is Syria, Lebanon, okay? Down here is Egypt, okay? Now, what had happened, right? So Assyria, or Syria, Lebanon, Assyria has taken over this region, and they're trying to team up with Egypt to fight all that is Babylon, all this area over here. So Nebuchadnezzar the king understands that there's somebody right in the middle. It's a little bitty country known as Judah. So King Nebuchadnezzar comes right in and he's going to take over Judah, which would prevent Egypt from coming up or Assyria coming down, right? For them to team up. So he comes in and takes over this little bitty country, this little bitty desert country, Judah, to stop Egypt and Assyria teaming up fighting against him, right? So basically, what was a vassal state of Egypt, well, Babylon comes over, and now Judah becomes a vassal state of Babylon. So now Babylon is right here in the center. All of this happens at 605 BC. And we know this because of biblical history, and we know this because of Assyrian history, of Egyptian history. There's a lot of history that backs this up, okay? So at 605 BC, Nebuchadnezzar comes in, and now he makes Judah his vassal state. This happens the last 3 years of the reign, because we're in the book of Kings, right? Everything is associated with the king that's on the throne, and that is Jehoiakim, the king of Israel, right? Remember, he was a king for 11 years. So 8 of those years was to Egypt. The last 3 were to Babylon. And then we see verse 2, and the Lord sent against him. The Lord, okay, notice that the Lord, Yahweh, sends against him, against the king of Judah, Jehoiakim. So the Lord sends against Judah. Notice what it says: Chaldeans, Syrians, Moabites, Ammonites. Now, Chaldeans is always in the Bible Babylonians, okay? It was the land of Chaldee, but it's Babylon. But all of these other people, so the Syrians, not Assyrians, the Syrians, that's the northern region. Babylon has now taken them over. They've pretty much taken over the whole world. And so he sends the Syrians from the north, Moab. Moab is Jordan, modern day Jordan. So they're to the east, and the Amorites are to the northeast. So he sends not only Babylon in, right? But he sends people from the north and all from the east. Remember, on the west is the Mediterranean Sea. There's nobody there to send. So basically, the Lord sends the world descending in on this really small country of Judah, with really one big city, that's Jerusalem. He sends the world against them to what? To Judah, to, notice what the Bible says, to destroy it. God is wiping them out according to the word. This happens, right, in 601 to 598. For 3 years, the Syrians, the Ammonites, the Moabites, the Chaldeans come down. Everybody is coming for 3 years. They're besieging Judah and Jerusalem. Okay, they're just besieging, and they're destroying and destroying and destroying. And all this happens Um, and what happens? Well, the king dies, right? And now his son will take over, and his son, Jehoiakim, will reign for only 3 months, okay? And so he will reign, but notice in verse 9 it says he did what was evil in the sight of the Lord. And so in this short amount of time, he's reigning only for 3 months. And what happens? At that time, servants of Nebuchadnezzar comes to the city to besiege it, okay? They're coming to basically do everything but ultimately destroy it. And this happens in 597 BC, okay? Once again, all these dates are super solid, firm in world history and in Bible history. So this started in 605, right, with Nebuchadnezzar coming down and making it a vassal state. 601 to 598, it's the besiege of all these countries. But in 597, the king of Babylon takes the king of Judah, Jehoiakim, takes him to be a prisoner, takes him back to Babylon. But he also not only takes the king, he takes the king's family, he takes the temple, he takes the treasures of the king. And not only that, he carries away all the soldiers, the mighty men of valor. He takes 10,000 captives, all the craftsmen, all the blacksmiths. Notice what it says in verse 14, none remain. None remain except for the poorest of the poor. Babylon comes in and takes everybody away. This is the time where we would know that Daniel gets taken away, right? And goes in to live into the king's palace. And so just kind of connecting the Old Testament for you. And so basically 597, he comes in and takes everything, everybody away. And we even get some calculations. All the men of valor, 7,000, craftsmen, metalworkers, 1,000. And notice what happens in verse 17. The king of Babylon replaced the king with this guy named Zedekiah. Zedekiah will reign for 11 years. Though he is the king of Judah, there is no Judah. There's only poor people left. There's literally nobody left. But he is the king of Judah because Judah is yet a vassal state. It's under control of King Nebuchadnezzar. He places his man Zedekiah. Zedekiah, though he's the king of Judah, there really is no Judah left, but he will be the last king of Judah. So for 11 years, Judah sits there with basically in a battle-torn country with just the poorest of the poor, no gold, no silver, no nothing. But Zedekiah is working under the hand of King Nebuchadnezzar. And what we know about him, we notice in verse 19, he did what was evil in the sight of the Lord. Even though the only people he was over was the poorest of poor, he still was evil. He didn't even help them out. He was evil and was against the Lord. And of course, he was probably a big fan of the king of Babylon. That's why he chose him. And he just pushed and pushed and pushed against the poorest of the poor that were left in this battle-torn country. But we see at the very last verse, Zedekiah rebelled against the king of Babylon. Doing what pride does, he got too big for his britches and he thought he could get away because Judah was really nothing. Press against the king, and we're going to find out that Nebuchadnezzar's not going to allow that to happen in the last chapter of 2 Kings. But we will see that tomorrow. Hope that makes a little bit more sense. So I just want to go over these dates. 605 it starts. 601 to 598 is the besiege of all of the countries coming against them. 597, all of Judah, all the Israelites, all the Jews are taken away back to Babylon. And then we will see the final end of Judah in tomorrow in chapter 25. Hope that makes a little bit more sense. We'll see you tomorrow. God bless.